This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
Hello, I'm Anjali Istwar. Welcome to the Realty Debate. Lending rates from banks are low. Interest subsidy to lower income groups and even mid-income groups is being offered on a platter. There is a tax holiday on profit for affordable housing projects that deliver. It all sounds like a perfect recipe for a great affordable housing boom. But are things really as good as they sound? To discuss this, we are joined by a panel of guests who are the movers and shakers of real estate and real estate financing sector. Let me introduce them. We have Ramesh Nair, CEO and Country Head, JLL India. We have Rahul Sabharwal, COO, VBHC Value Homes Private Limited. We have Vijayanath MG, he's the CJM Real Estate and Housing, SBI. We have Manoj Gaur, MD, Gorsons India and Vice President, Credai. We also have with us our knowledge partner Pankaj Kapoor, founder and managing director, Lysis Forest. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. But before we begin this debate, let's take a look at what we feel are the challenges for affordable housing in India. And all of you, please jump in whenever you feel that you want to add to the list. As the debate progresses, please do jump in. But anyway, here is our list. Ease of approvals. It's a distant dream for housing sector, but unfortunately, government has not been able to realize it even for the much needed affordable housing. Lack of land for affordable housing within city limits. This is probably the single most challenging factor. Lack of funding for land cost and also pre-construction cost, as a big chunk of the cost of project is land, zone conversion, construction approvals, etc. Also, one thing that everyone is confused about is the lack of clarity regarding GST and its impact on affordable housing projects. Last but not the least, lack of access to new and efficient tech that cuts cost. So these are the points that we feel are really the big challenges for realty sector, especially in affordable housing segment. Let's start with you, Ramesh. I want to ask you, do you feel that has the government done enough to make the environment a bit more conducive for affordable housing?
Anjali, I would say the glass is half full. This government has definitely shown the intent, especially the last two budgets, whether it was the interest subsidies which the government has been talking about, whether it's the bringing in that ATIB kind of tax holiday for developers, whether it was giving affordable housing in infrastructure status this time around. This government is definitely on the right path, although I think there's a lot more on the execution side required. You summarized it very well. Where is the land available for affordable housing? Where is the infrastructure available for affordable housing? Is approvals happening on time? Interest costs still is it being passed on to the people who want to buy these homes? So it's a half glass which is full. Still the government needs to do a huge amount of opportunities, but going forward we truly believe that in the next one year you would at least see 50 plus developers in the country kind of getting more focused into affordable than ever before.
You know, I like it that you're putting a number to it, 50 plus. But let's speak to you, Rahul, because you've been in this business and you're already doing that. You know the challenges better than anyone else. Do you feel the way forward is better for you as well as people or the developers who would be now show intention to get into this sector?
Anjali, so basically the way we look at it, this sector needs a certain level of mindset and a different mindset. What we have been able to do in the last 7 years of existence is kind of build on that mindset. However, the way you summarized it accurately at the beginning of the show, there's not enough that is being done at this point of time, in our view, to really start moving things in the sector. 70 years after the independence of the country, we are still struggling with getting the proper codes in terms of our land titles. approval processes not only take as long as it would take in any other sector as far as the affordable housing is concerned, but even the whole changes that are brought about once approvals are given to a project, those things start moving. As we look at it, RERA, which is supposed to be the authority which is set up for helping customers and kind of regulating the sector, is very much silent on various approval authorities, and there is no supervision or regulation of the authorities that is done by RERA. So essentially what you're doing is, as a developer, the way we look at it, there is another level of another approval which has come into play in apart from the multiple approvals that we already take.
Taking forward the issue of developers coming in, Mr. Gaur, we just heard Rahul saying that in fact RERA is turning out to be another problem for them, and he's talking about another approval authority. We of course view it a little differently, and so do the consumers, but I want to know from you, do you feel that approvals is such a big challenge that developers like you would probably not like to take on something like affordable housing, because the time frame, the cost, all that will become a huge problem for you?
नहीं, आई थिंक द फर्स्ट टाइम द गवर्नमेंट ने लास्ट बजट के अंदर जो है सप्लाई साइड को जो है एड्रेस किया है। अदरवाइज चाहे रेरा ले लीजिए, उससे पहले सब्सिडी हाउसिंग लोन के लिए लीजिए, जो कंज्यूमर था उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट फोकस कर रही थी। बट जब तक आप सप्लाई साइड को ठीक नहीं करेंगे, आई थिंक इस बजट के अंदर जो अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के अंदर चाहे टैक्स रिबेट है, चाहे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर स्टेटस देने की बात की है, ये दो जो बड़े रिफॉर्म्स हैं। ऑफकोर्स द अप्रूवल सिस्टम जो है, हम हमेशा से बात करते रहे हैं कि इनके लिए सिंगल विंडो क्लियरेंस होना चाहिए, जो क्योंकि स्टेट का भी एक सब्जेक्ट है लैंड जो है, बहुत सारे अप्रूवल्स जो है हमें स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से लेने पड़ते हैं। सेंटर से हमने कोशिश करी है, कुछ चीज़ों में हम कामयाब भी रहे हैं, जैसे एविएशन एक था, उसको उन्होंने सेंटर मैप पे अब टोटली कंप्यूटराइज कर दिया है, मैनुअल इंटरफेरेंस कम करी है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली 15 डेज़ के अंदर आपको हाइट क्लियरेंस मिल जाती है। सिमिलरली द एनवायरनमेंट इज़ द बिगेस्ट इशू, कि एनवायरनमेंट को भी अभी एक नोटिफिकेशन आया कि ऑटोमेटिकली जो डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटीज़ हैं वही उसको सुपरवाइज करेंगी ऑन पार्ट ऑफ द बाईलॉग। तो ये इस तरह की चीज़ें कि एक जब आपका अप्रूवल सिस्टम को जो है और जो है ईज़ करना पड़ेगा। एंड जो अफोर्डेबल वाले जो बात है कि अफोर्डेबल सेक्टर का इसका दिया टैक्सेशन के अंदर जो है, आई थिंक आरबीआई का जो है सर्कुलर एक बार आता है तो इसके अंदर और क्लैरिटी आ जाएगी। द जो बैंक्स हैं वो एक इसको प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर मान के इसको जो लॉन्ग टर्म लोन्स अवेलेबल कराएंगे, तभी ये सही उसके अंदर आएगा। एंड द लैंड कॉस्ट ऑफ कोर्स जो है शहर के अंदर विद इन द बाउंड्री लिमिट्स ऑफ द म्यूनसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन, द लैंड रेट आर स्टिल हाई एंड इट इज़ द मेन कंपोनेंट इन द अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग। ये कुछ चीज़ें और भी हैं, लेकिन आई थिंक एक बिगनिंग हो चुकी है, एक राइट डायरेक्शन के अंदर बिगनिंग हो चुकी है।
So you are hoping that you will be striking the right balance between demand and supply. But since the topic of funding was brought up, Mr. Vaidyanath, I think almost every developer is waiting with bated breath for that RBI guideline to come in, because infrastructure status, that was like a magic word which was uttered and everybody was happy about it. But we are all waiting to see how is it going to bring down the lending rates. What is the what is the sense you're getting right now? What can we expect?
Yeah, Anjali ji, definitely the cost of borrowing is one of the important costs. And classifying this affordable housing as infrastructure will help bringing down the cost of borrowing, and to that extent the cost of construction will come down, and the benefit of that reduction in the cost will be passed on to the ultimate buyer. But I would like to add that a lot of positive steps have been taken in the area of affordable housing. But I would like all of us to have a look at what is this affordable word. The affordable word can be different to different people. It is affordable for somebody and may not be affordable for somebody else. Today we have a lot of supply of the property. There are people who want to buy. We all know that nearly 2 crore properties there is shortage in urban areas and around 4 crore in rural areas. But there is also a lot of supply available in urban areas. But why is that? Although supply is there, the demand is there, but the transactions are not happening. This is because there is gap in what one can afford, the buyer can afford, and the cost. This cost needs to be brought down. In the area of interest cost, lot of positive steps have been taken, but there are other areas wherein steps need to be taken, like the land. Land is a big cost component. This needs to be addressed too, because more than 90% of this affordable housing requirement is in LIG and EWS segment, where the affordability definitely is a big challenge. So the cost needs to come down. The cost, I am not saying that the builders have to reduce the cost. They themselves will have their own challenges.
Pankaj, I want to bring you in here because we are hearing all the developers talking about the fact that yes, they have the intention, they want to get into affordable housing. What does your experience say? Is it just the fact that affordable housing has not got that kind of a favorable environment earlier, or was there never an interest amongst the developers to get into that segment?
Yeah, my own sense is there were not enough motivations available for them, because motivation was more for doing the luxury and the mid-segment demand, because that's where better eligibilities and investor-driven market it used to be. So if you look at my earlier housing policies, even though talked all around the affordable housing and the need for housing and all those things, they were more pro-investors. It's only in this budget, the first time the government has taken account of it, and they realize, and they removed the the additional incentive which the investor used to have. So earlier people used to buy the flat on the for investments, and their income tax exemptions for investors, if they do the set off against the rental income, the whole interest amount used to get exempted. And that was additional 7% benefit to the investor. That's why more and more investors were participating in the real estate sector, and they were abusing the need rather than fulfilling the need in the true sense. So if you look at a country which has been facing a problem of housing shortage, also has been facing problem of rising inventory, the prices went up so much, and which has created economic imbalance. Today, if you look at Vajnath Singh or every other person on the panel has spoken about one important aspect, is that cost crisis. We have a huge demand, but I can't really fulfill this demand because my cost itself is very high. And biggest problem of this is the land cost I see in the current market. Affordable housing, especially for EWS and LIG, especially in the metros, cannot be done where it interacts with the livelihood of the people. For affordable housing, someone has to go so far away where there is no desirability for people to go and live, because there is no social fabric, no infrastructure, no connectivity. We are a country which is having, infrastructure shortage all around. Now, in that perspective, even though affordable housing need is there, but especially the supply can come only to the places which are so far away, and that largely because the land cost in the nearby location are very high. It doesn't really allow the affordable housing to exist over there. My own sense is, unless we see a moderation in land prices, where we ensure there is land is available which is interactive to the consumer's livelihood, and which is closer to the city precinct. Yes. For metro, certainly I see there
so this land thing I do want to touch upon, and I think affordability is another thing that, how do you make anything affordable? Either you bring the cost down, or you enable the buyer in buying it. So I think both the aspects have to be worked together. But Ramesh, here, as far as land is concerned, that federal structure of our country, sometimes what happens is you have these affordable housing policies of some states, and then you have a central policy, and there is no alignment. So here, do you feel that because in some states, acquiring land, getting land, there are some incentives being given. But do you feel that that sort of a federal structure actually works to undermine growth of affordable housing sometimes?
See, there is a lot of disconnect between the central and state governments when it comes to land as a topic, or even affordable housing. If we today look at the tax structure, when I buy a home, close to 30-35% of whatever I pay for goes in different types of taxes for the central and state, whether it's the developer paying or the home buyer paying. So firstly, the government needs to make sure that's taken care of. Second is the delay aspect. Whatever the central government says, at the end of the day, delay happens at the local level. just a land which is 2 years delayed, today's even a good developer, his cost of capital for land is 20%. So we are talking of 40% of the land prices increasing just because your project has been delayed by 2 years. So these are the kind of things the government needs to look at. But again, if you look at what has happened over the last few years, the positives we need to look at, definitely there are enough infrastructure schemes which are happening today which are better than before. There's enough land bank today with developers, which was not the case 10 years back. Enough construction technologies which is available where developers can do it faster. There's a lot more government intervention, what I spoke about earlier on. So at least if you look at all these aspects, we have set a good foundation for the country to go to the next level. If the government can fix these 3-4 points, whether it's better infrastructure, land at lower cost, reducing the tax rates and faster approvals. And if the government can do each one of this, the government has shown that they have the intent. RERA is a big game changer, but if the government can do these things maybe once every 6 months, once a year, change some of these things, then I'm very, very sure that there's no stopping this industry.
You know, I really like this word intent. It's something, you know, which is very positive, and every time we hear it and every time we feel it, we get a lot of positive vibes. But you want to say something, Mr. Gaur? Yes.
Yeah, I think the 4 points, the land, then the taxation, the stamp duty and the technology. आई थिंक ये चारों चीज़ों को अगर हम कंबाइन करते हैं तो अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग की जा सकती है। और अगर हम अपने नेबर कंट्रीज़ को देखें, चाहे मलेशिया है, इंडोनेशिया है, सभी लोगों ने मास हाउसिंग के लिए जो टेक्नोलॉजी अवेलेबल कराई डेवलपर्स को, प्लस साथ में जो इंसेंटिव है टैक्सेशन के रूप में है या लैंड कॉस्ट के रूप में है, प्लस लोकल अथॉरिटी जैसे स्टेट और सेंटर का जो डिसकनेक्ट है, वहाँ पे उनके जो डेवलपमेंट चार्जेस हैं या जो लोकल टैक्सेस हैं, दैट इज़ वेरी हाई, अराउंड 30 to 40%। अभी आपने जो बताया जो है, उससे इसकी कॉस्ट को जो है कंट्रोल करना बहुत मुश्किल है। और जब तक कॉस्ट इसकी कंट्रोल नहीं होगी तो ये अफोर्डेबल सेक्टर, जैसे अफोर्डेबिलिटी लोगों के लिए क्या है, तो वो एक बड़ा एक फैक्टर है कि वो अलग अलग मेट्रोज के या जो सैटेलाइट टाउन्स हैं उसमें वो डिफरेंट तरीके से वेरी करती है। तो हमें इस चीज़ को देखना पड़ेगा कि कहाँ पे हाउसिंग हो रही है, उसकी स्टेट के टैक्सेस क्या हैं, सेंटर के टैक्सेस क्या हैं, प्लस टेक्नोलॉजी को जो है किस तरह से हम इसके अंदर ला सकते हैं जो मास हाउसिंग के अंदर कॉस्ट को कम करती है।
टेक इज अ ह्यूज थिंग, इवन आई फील, एंड आई वांट टू ब्रिंग यू इन राहुल, बिकॉज डू यू फील you are able to access superior technology to bring down costs in a much efficient manner? What about the duties that are levied in every time you're trying to bring in superior technology? Is it accessible enough to you, or government should be doing something in that front as well?
So Anjali, we were one of the first ones in India when we started. We realized that the only way, affordable housing or mass housing can be done is by the use of technology. Labor in our country is skilled labor in our country is going to be something that is going to have a continuous shortfall as time progresses, and we've seen that in the last 6-7 years. We actually brought in form technology, and those technologies, yes, they were slightly more expensive in the initial years, but over a period of time they have really helped deliver housing at a very, very different pace. So I agree with the panel that if we have to do affordable or mass housing, we need to get technologies. Government needs to do more surely to help developers reduce the cost. But these are technologies that if you actually were to build a large scale township, the cost almost evens out. So there is a slightly higher cost that you eventually end up paying, but it is well worth the time effort that is required to complete the project, and you can actually complete a project in 12 months vis-a-vis what you would take 24 to 30 months in the conventional sense. I absolutely agree that if you have to do mass affordable housing, there has to be some tectonic shift in the way we construct, in the way we approach this. The current approach has been affordable housing has been done in parts as an extension of what other developers have been doing in these areas. The second thing that you see is a lot of affordable housing stock is actually coming from unregulated players, which probably once RERA comes in will kind of give the final product to the customer which is of a great quality, and that's very, very important.
That's quite an important point. Time for a short break on the Realty Debate. When we come back, we take the discussion forward and also take a closer look at subsidies given by the government and their reach amongst the beneficiaries.